He smiled like he recognized her, but she froze like she didn't recognize him, and the dog. The dog sensed something none of us could. It was 3:12 p.m. when the final bell rang at Meadow Creek Elementary. The sound of laughter mixed with the patter of sneakers echoed across the pickup area. Parents waved from their cars, engines idling along the curb. Crossing guards exchanged small talk about the weather. It was a typical Friday afternoon buzz. Lucy Carter, a 7-year-old with pigtails and glittery pink sneakers, sat quietly on the school steps. Her small backpack rested by her feet. She was waiting, as always, for her mother, and usually a few minutes late due to the I-25 traffic. But Lucy didn't mind. She liked to count the red cars that passed, but that day, something was different. A minor dressed in a charcoal peacoat, with thinning grey hair and wire-rimmed glasses approached calmly, unlike the usual rush of parents. He scanned the area until his gaze settled on Lucy. Then he smiled and gave a little wave. "Lucy," he said softly. "Sweetheart, come here." Lucy didn't move. Her eyes narrowed. The man took a few steps closer. "It's Grandpa." "Honey, don't you remember me?" That's when Blitz, a retired K-9 from the county police force, now part of the school's therapy programs, utterly shot upright beside Officer Deanna Rodriguez. It was as if lightning had struck the ground beneath him. He locked eyes on the man and released a low, steady growl that vibrated from deep in his chest. Deanna stiffened. Blitz didn't growl often. At 12 years old, he was calm, disciplined, and deeply trusted. If he growled, it meant something was wrong. "Easy, Blitz," she said instinctively, reaching for his collar. But Blitz didn't relax. He stood, hackles raised, growling louder now. Deanna turned toward Lucy, who still hadn't moved. The man, looking more puzzled than dangerous, extended his hand. "Emma asked me to pick you up, sweetie. She had to stay late at the clinic. I'm your Grandpa Joe." Parents nearby started to glance over. A few fell silent. The air felt different. Lucy's lip trembled. She shook her head. Her voice broke the hush. "That's not my grandpa." Everyone paused. The man's smile wavered. "Lucy, I know it's been a while, but no," she said, louder this time. Her voice cracked. "He smells different. That's not him." Blitz barked a sharp, commanding sound, then barked again. He lunged forward, pulling against Deanna's grip, eyes fixed on the stranger. "Sir, I need you to step back," Deanna ordered, moving between them, her hand instinctively brushing her belt. She wasn't a patrol officer anymore, but the training was still in her bones. "I am her grandfather," the man insisted, his voice suddenly animated. "I can show you my ID." "This is absurd. The dog's just confused." "She said she doesn't." "No, you," Deanna replied flatly. "And Blitz doesn't get confused." Lucy was crying now. Another teacher rushed over to wrap an arm around her. "I've never seen that man before." The teacher whispered to Deanna. Other staff were starting to gather. One discreetly pulled out a phone and dialed 911. Deanna kept a firm hold on Blitz, who remained tense, vibrating with barely contained energy. His growl hadn't stopped. The man slowly reached into his coat. Blitz exploded with another bark, the sound echoing off the school walls. "Slow," Deanna barked. "Keep your hands visible." He froze, then cautiously pulled out a driver's license and a document. "See. My name's Joseph L. Carter. Her last name is Carter. I'm her grandfather." Deanna didn't take the papers. She waited. The police were en route. Minutes crawled by. Lucy sobbed quietly. "He doesn't smell like cinnamon," she whispered. "Grandpa always smells like cinnamon and soap. This man smells like old wood and metal." 5 minutes later, a squad car arrived. Officer Daniels stepped out, took in the scene, and moved fast. He separated the man, took the documents, and scanned the ID to dispatch. Blitz, though calmer now, remained alert beside Deanna, watching. Then something shifted. Blitz growled again, but this time, not at the man. He stared at the man's briefcase. Deanna knelt beside it. "Sir, may I inspect your belongings?" "You're kidding," he snapped. "Consent or a warranty call?" He sighed and nodded. "Fine, But this is ridiculous. Inside the briefcase, Deanna found a bottle of prescription-grade sedatives, a roll of zip ties, and a child's pink baseball cap. The cap was embroidered with the name Lily. Lucy didn't own a cap like that, but another girl in Denver had. She vanished 6 weeks ago. Daniel's voice dropped to a steely tone. Turn around. Hands behind your back. What? You can't. Be serious, Blitz barked once loud final dot. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Lucy clung to her teacher's leg. Her sobs began to ease. That evening, Blitz was treated to a steak dinner by the school principal and received an honorary badge from the sheriff's office. Lucy sat beside him on the bench outside, gently stroking the fur behind his ears. You knew, she whispered. Even when I didn't. Blitz didn't reply. He didn't have to. He simply laid his head in her lap and closed his eyes, as if finally at peace. The sirens were gone. The squad car carrying Grandpa Joe had disappeared down the road, leaving behind only echoes and questions. The once bustling pickup zone now looked more like the edge of a crime scene. Blitz remained close to Officer Deanna Rodriguez, who was filling out an incident report on her department-issued tablet. His breathing had slowed, but his eyes never left the gate, watchful as ever. Lucy, wrapped in a school fleece blanket, patterned with a cartoon eagle in sunglasses, sat beside a teacher, quietly sipping chocolate milk. Inside the office, Daniels paced. The briefcase sat under a clear plastic cover, zip ties, sedatives, a floral handkerchief, and the pink cap with Lily stitched on it. None of it made sense. Dispatch came back, Daniels said, as Deanna entered. No record of a Joseph L. Carter matching that ID. Not in the entire state, not even close. So, it's fake, Deanna said. He nodded grimly. And a good one, holograms, lamination. Probably purchased online. We'll need forensics to trace it. She looked at the cap again. That doesn't belong to Lucy. You think there's a link to that missing girl in Denver? Daniels ran a hand over his face. 6 weeks ago, Lily Jane Foster, 6 years old, blonde, blue eyes, disappeared from her front yard while playing hopscotch. A heavy silence filled the room. Blitz let out a long breath, but kept scanning. Outside, Lucy looked up at her teacher. Can I pet Blitz again? The teacher gave a nod, and Deanna motioned for them to come closer. As Lucy stepped forward, Blitz sat up slowly. His posture had changed, still gentle, but now alert and protective. He stayed calm as Lucy wrapped her small arms around his neck. She leaned her head on him, and for the first time that day, a faint smile appeared on her face. Deanna knelt beside her. Lucy, sweetheart, she asked softly, do you know where your mum is today? We tried calling her but couldn't get through. Lucy looked up. She's at the clinic. She's working. Does she usually let someone know if someone else is picking you up? Lucy nodded firmly. She always texts my teacher, every time. The teacher confirmed it. That's right. Emma always gives us a heads up if plans change. Deanna and Daniel exchanged a concerned glance. Just then, Daniel's radio crackled to life. Unit 34, to command, suspect declined to answer questions and has asked for legal representation. We're running prints now. 20 minutes later, back at the Carter County Police Department, Detective Claire Monroe stepped into interview room 2. She'd been pulled from her lunch break for this case. One look at the suspect and her instincts kicked in. He looked unremarkable, so mid-60s, the kind of man you'd ask for directions in a grocery store. But that normalcy was exactly what made him dangerous. The forensic results arrived shortly after. Fingerprints matched real name, Thomas Edward Langston. He had at least 5 known aliases. His criminal record had been sealed for years, but what remained open revealed a disturbing pattern: an attempted child abduction in Illinois in 1998. Charges later dropped due to insufficient evidence. In 2011, he was linked to a missing child in Oregon, though no charges were filed. Until now, back at Meadow Creek Elementary, Lucy's mum, Emma, finally arrived. Her hair was frazzled, her phone clutched tightly in one hand, and worry written all over her face. She rushed straight to Lucy, who was still holding Blitz's leash on a bench. "Oh my God. Lucy," Emma cried, dropping to her knees and hugging her daughter like she'd been lost for years. Lucy whimpered. "He said he was Grandpa, but he wasn't." Emma looked up at Deanna, confused, angry. "Who was that man?" Deanna answered with calm caution. "We're still confirming his identity. But your daughter is safe. That's thanks to Blitz." Emma stared at the dog, overwhelmed. Then she knelt down and hugged Blitz, tears filling her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, the 10 p.m. local news opened with its usual theme. But the top story was anything but routine. Retired K-9 prevents suspected kidnapping. Outside Meadow Creek Elementary. Suspect possibly connected to multiple child disappearances. Video played of Blitz being rewarded with a chew toy the size of a baseball bat, cameras flashing, officers smiling. Then came a clip of Emma holding Lucy's hand tightly. "I thought it was just another normal Friday," she said. "If Blitz hadn't been there, if Lucy hadn't spoken up, I don't even want to think about it." Back at the station, around midnight, Daniel and Deanna sat in the break, sipping cold coffee. "Do you think Lucy was his target?" Daniel asked. Deanna nodded slowly. "Yes, but I don't think she was the only one." She flipped through the evidence photos of the suspect's belongings. A hat, child-sized gloves, a digital map showing nearby schools. This wasn't random. The man had a method, and it had been in play for a long time. Outside in the station's lot, Blitz lay in the back of Deanna's SUV. His eyes were closed, nose twitching in sleep. He hadn't barked in hours, but if you watched closely, his ears still flicked at every sound. Even in retirement, he hadn't let his guard down. He didn't make mistakes, he made connections. And if he hadn't growled at just the right moment, no one might have looked close enough by the next morning. The small conference room at the Carter County Sheriff's Office was covered with maps, photos, and timelines. Sticky notes littered a whiteboard, and muted surveillance footage played on a laptop. Detective Monroe leaned against the table, coffee in hand. Her frown set deep. "This guy didn't stumble on Lucy by chance," she muttered. "He's been watching that school maybe for weeks." Deanna sat across from her, Blitz curled silently at her feet. They had just reviewed cell tower data from the suspect's prepaid phone. He'd pinged near 4 elementary schools in the past month, always at dismissal times, always in quiet, low-crime neighborhoods with limited school security. A textbook predator, Monroe said, flipping through more documents. He hadn't broken in. He'd blended in. Name: Thomas Edward Langston, age 64. Occupation, unknown. Confirmed aliases, 5 across multiple states: Illinois, Colorado, Oregon, possibly Arizona. His method was always the same. Pretend to be family, wait near schools at pickup time. Approach with fake authority. In Denver, just 6 weeks earlier, a girl named Lily Jane Foster had gone missing. Her mother had stepped inside to sign papers. A neighbor later mentioned seeing a man in a ball cap talking kindly to Lily on the sidewalk. No footage, no car description, not until now. Monroe pinned a still frame from Meadow Creek's security video next to Lily's missing child flyer. The visual was chilling. Same man, same coat, same casual smile. Meanwhile, Lucy was home, curled under a frozen blanket on the couch. Blitz lay beside her. Emma, in the recliner nearby, fielded another call from the school district. "Yes, we're safe," she told the caller. "Yes, I'll be filing a formal report." "No, Lucy's not coming back this week." "Yes, we're considering a transfer." Her voice wavered on that last word. Lucy was quietly tracing circles in Blitz's fur. "You know," she said softly, "I think Blitz can talk, just not with words." Emma started to reply, but stopped. What do you even say to that, especially when it feels true? Back at the station, Monroe made another discovery. Hidden in a false panel inside Langston's suitcase was a USB drive. Forensics nearly missed it. It was encrypted, but not beyond the team's skills. By 10 a.m., dozens of images were on screen. All long-range photos: kids on playgrounds, walking home, waiting at bus stops. None of them posing. None aware they were being watched. Each file was time-stamped. Labeled by city, Langston had organized them like a portfolio. Denver Candidate A. Ogden, Option 3, Meadow Creek Lucy. It was disturbing. He wasn't just drifting, Monroe said quietly. He was documenting. Deanna stepped out of the room, her grip on her coffee mug tight. Blitz followed her out. They stood near the back fence, mountain air chilling her arms. "He's done this before," she whispered, "and not every kid had someone like you looking out for them." Blitz pressed against her leg. No sound, just presence. Elsewhere, Monroe clicked through another folder labeled SFX Library. She thought it was unrelated until she played the audio. Dozens of recordings, kids laughing, singing, reciting the alphabet, whispering lines like, "He said it's our little secret." One file stood out. Lily 6 Yo, last wave. Monroe's hand hovered over the mouse. She didn't press play. Instead, she forwarded everything to the district attorney. By noon, federal agents were brought into the case. Langston was now a suspect in at least 3 child disappearances, and possibly 2 more, one reaching as far back as 2007. A joint task force had been assembled. Every alias, every identification number, and every vehicle he had ever owned was now under scrutiny. But despite all their efforts, no child had ever been recovered until Lucy, and it was all thanks to Blitz. Back at the Carter residence, Emma was helping Lucy with some coloring when there was a knock at the door. Standing outside was Deanna, now dressed in civilian clothes, holding a folder beneath her arm, and wearing a gentle smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I wanted to drop this off," she said, handing over a printed certificate. In the corner was Blitz's paw print. Certificate of Honor awarded to Blitz, Retired Canine Unit, for extraordinary bravery and civilian protection. Emma looked at it, then glanced at Deanna. "Can we hang it up?" Lucy asked, peeking over her mother's shoulder. "Absolutely," Emma said. "It's going on the wall." Blitz gave a single wag of his tail and then laid down on the welcome mat. Content. That night, Lucy placed a bowl of kibble by her bedroom window, not in the kitchen, but by the window itself. When Emma asked why, Lucy simply answered, "In case Blitz wants to guard me from the moon." From that night on, the bowl stayed right there. Across town, inside a small storage unit rented under one of Langston's many aliases, the FBI uncovered more disturbing evidence's second suitcase. Inside was a burner phone with 5 unread messages, a printed bus schedule with a highlighted route to Bayfront Elementary, and a photo of another little girl about Lucy's age, wearing a red backpack and carrying a lunchbox labeled "Be Kind." There was also a second USB drive, labeled Bayfront Option 1. The nightmare wasn't over. Langston hadn't been acting alone. The messages on the burner phone were instructions, sent by someone else. The authorities had data. The FBI had surveillance. But Blitz had something better. Instinct. And instinct always moved faster than technology. Early Monday morning, a different kind of storm began to form, the one outside with its hail and thunder that would later crawl across local news screens, but one sparked by a photograph pulled from the second suitcase. The image came from grainy surveillance footage. It showed a young girl with red hair, a ladybug-themed lunchbox, and a vivid purple backpack with the name Maya written across it in cursive. Beneath the photos, handwritten in marker, were the words, "Bayfront, Option 1. Bayfront Elementary was a small coastal school about an hour south of Carter County. It lacked comprehensive camera coverage, had no full-time school resource officer, and sat in a neighborhood where the streets were lined with pastel homes and picket fences, a place where danger seemed like a distant thought. Until now, the FBI acted quickly, alerting the local police and school officials. By midday, Maya's parents had been brought in. Shocked and scared, they clutched the photo of Langston with trembling hands. "We don't know this man," her father insisted. Maya told investigators she hadn't spoken to any strangers. But when agents showed her a picture of her own backpack, her face went pale. That's mine," she whispered, "but that's not where I left it." Meanwhile, back In Carter County, Officer Deanna Rodriguez sat in her SUV with Blitz, watching the rain tap against the windshield. Blitz wasn't asleep. He hadn't truly rested since Lucy. Deanna scratched behind his ears. They found another one, Buddy. Maya, 6 years old, red hair. He was watching her too. Blitz looked up at her, eyes locked. He didn't need to speak. He understood. That night, Deanna got a call from FBI Special Agent Helen Shaw, who was now leading the Langston Task Force. "You're not going to like this," Shaw warned. "We have signs he wasn't acting alone." Deanna straightened. "Go ahead." We pulled 5 recent messages off a burner phone in the second suitcase. Untraceable, but very clear. Shaw read them aloud. Option 1, confirmed backpack matches window of opportunity. Next Thursday, low risk, use same method. No changes, do not engage Carter girl again, too noisy. Eyes on Bayfront, stick to the list. Deanna didn't speak right away. Noisy, that's what they called Lucy. A little girl who screamed, who trusted her instincts, who had a dog that never forgot his training. "Send me everything you've got on Bayfront," Deanna said. "We're heading there Wednesday." At Bayfront Elementary, coastal fog curled through the playground like ghosts in waiting. Deanna parked near the school, Blitz in the back seat. Though she wasn't technically on duty, Agent Shaw had pulled some strings. The district welcomed the helpest especially from a dog who had already saved a life. Blitz began walking the school's perimeter with quiet precision. His ears moved like radar, his nose twitching. Nothing at first. Then, near the chain-link fence beside the playground, he stopped. His growl was low, not urgent, but insistent. "Blitz," Deanna whispered. Crouching beside him, he was sniffing a patch of dirt beneath a bush. She pulled the branches back. There, half buried, was a banana Laffy Taffy wrapper. Blitz growled again. A few feet away, tucked behind a fence post, was a child's sock pink with a unicorn print. The tag read, "Property of Maya." Deanna immediately contacted Shaw and the local police. The evidence was bagged. Security footage from the school's lone rear camera was reviewed. It showed a white van idling in the back lot the previous week. The engine stayed running for 14 minutes. The license plates were stolen. The driver never left the vehicle and kept their face hidden under a hoodie. Shaw's voice over the phone was grim. Same pattern. No prints, no face. But the timeline lines up. He has a partner and we don't know who. Blitz hadn't stopped pacing since they left the school. He was restless. So was Deanna. That night, sleep didn't come. Deanna sat with a coffee cup at midnight, staring at the map pinned to her wall, one marked with every school found in Langston's files. A pattern was emerging. Each school had a fence under 5 feet. Each was within a block of wooded areas or alleys. Each had afternoon pickup zones without consistent staffing. Her finger traced the coastline. Then she spotted It Harbor View, Lutheran School. Just 8 miles from Bayfront, a private institution. No public cameras. 2 weeks earlier, a white van had been seen parked nearby. It had seemed out of place. A chill passed through her. She grabbed her jacket. Blitz's leash. Thursday, 3:15 p.m. dismissal time at Harborview. The skies were grey. Su lined up in the carpool lane. Teachers called names over walkie-talkies. Rain dotted the sidewalk. From behind a line of parked cars. Blitz sat beside Deanna, but he wasn't watching the school entrance. His eyes were fixed on the alley. Then his body tensed. A man stood near a green dumpster, wearing a yellow poncho. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't smoking. He was just watching. Watching the children. Blitz let out one sharp bark. Loud final. The man turned, saw them, and bolted. Deanna didn't hesitate. She was already moving, as if the uniform were still on her back. She unclipped Blitz, and he shot forward with the energy of a much younger dog. The leash hit the pavement with a sharp snap, like a gun going off. They chased after him through alleys, past overturned trash bins, and across slick puddles. He veered into a dead end, but didn't slow. Blitz lunged at the man, a clean take and forceful snarling, but fully in control by the time Deanna caught up. The man's poncho was torn, and Blitz had his jaws firmly around his wrist. careful not to break the skin. I didn't touch her. I didn't do anything. The man screamed. But in his jacket pocket, Deanna discovered a folded piece of paper, 3 school names, 3 children, and 3 time slots. One stood out. Maya, Thursday, 3:20 p.m. Some men keep lying even when caught red-handed, but dogs that sense the truth the moment it walks in. The man in the yellow poncho now sat handcuffed inside. Interrogation room, be at Bayfront Police Department. His eyes darted around the room, and sweat had soaked through his shirt, despite the air conditioning. His ID named him Calvin Royce Miller, 52, a drifter with his last known address in Bakersfield, California. No outstanding warrants, but his record showed minor offenses: petty theft, trespassing, drug possession. Nothing that screamed predator. Until now. Deanna Rodriguez stood behind the observation glass with Special Agent Helen Shaw, both watching Calvin twitch nervously in his seat. Is he talking? Deanna asked. Shaw shook her head. Not yet, but he's close. The dog threw him off. Down the hallway, Blitz lay next to a water bowl. Still and combat, always alert. Inside the room, Detective Monroe pushed a folder toward Calvin. We know who you are. We know what you were doing near that school. Calvin curled his lip. Loitering's not a crime. You weren't loitering. You were watching Maya Sanderson. Timing school dismissal. Working with Thomas Langston. You know that name, don't you? Calvin's jaw tensed ever so slightly. Never heard of him. Monroe calmly opened the folder and began laying out photographs, a map of Bayfront Elementary, a timeline with circled dates, Maya's backpack, a sock found near the fence. Interesting thing, Monroe said quietly. Langston had your number saved in his phone as Rook. So tell me, Calvin pawn in his game, huh? Calvin's fingers twitched. He said it'd be clean, he mumbled. No screaming, no mess. In and out. Monroe's face stayed impassive, but behind the glass, both Shaw and Deanna stiffened. He just gave us the connection, Shaw said under her breath. Langston's the planner. Calvin's the execution. Half an hour passed in tense silence. Then Calvin broke. They built the list online, he said. Encrypted forums, invite-only links. Langston handled the tech. I just watched. Took pictures, followed routines. He said they only wanted kids who wouldn't resist. The quiet ones. The lonely ones. Deanna felt her stomach churn. How many? Monroe asked evenly. Calvin looked up. For successful to that, didn't go as planned. Meadow Creek fell apart because the kid screamed. The dog ruined everything. Shaw muttered a curse. And Maya? Monroe asked. She wasn't taken, not yet. We hadn't decided. She was next on the trial list. We were seeing if she'd panic. She didn't trial list. Calvin nodded. Kids were rated. Personality looks risk level. They had a system, a scorecard, even a mailing list. Deanna clenched her fists. Later that day, at the FBI's Mobile Command Unit, Shaw briefed a team of agents, digital forensic staff, and local law enforcement. She pointed to a whiteboard covered in notes. Langston's USBs weren't just personal obsessions, she explained. They were organized for sharing names, photos, surveillance logs, and a link to a darknet forum pavilion. A young analyst stepped forward. Password protected. We cracked it. He entered a few commands and brought up a browser. What appeared was a stark, black chat room. Blue text. Anonymous handles. Tabs across the top read, candidate submissions. Collection logs, drop schedules, behavior ratings. Maya's name was there, so was Lucy's, and 8 others. Deanna stared blankly. Some of those kids had already been reported missing. Others hadn't, not yet. That evening, Deanna visited the Carter home. Emma opened the door with anxious hope. Any news? She asked. Deanna nodded. They've caught another man. He was following my girl from another school. We believe he worked under Langston. Your daughter's name? It was on their list. Emma's breath caught. She was their top choice that day, Deanna continued. They backed off when Blitz intervened. He didn't just chase them off. He broke their system. Lucy peeked from behind the hallway, wearing a Captain Marvel tee and holding a drawing. She'd sketched Blitz in crayon complete with a superhero cape. Standing guard in front of a school, I made this for him, she said shyly. Deanna knelt to eye level. He'll love it. Blitz patted in from the yard, sniffed the picture, like it was a treasure, then gently bumped Lucy's shoulder with his nose. That night, at Bayfront County Jail, Calvin Royce Miller was placed on suicide watch. Federal charges were announced: interstate child trafficking, conspiracy to abduct, aiding a fugitive. His smirk was gone. Meanwhile, Blitz was celebrated at a public ceremony at the Bayfront Civic Center. Families gathered to meet the dog who refused to retire. The mayor presented him with a comically large bone, but Blitz wasn't in it for fame. Only when Lucy hugged him again did he seem at peace. The crowd clapped. He simply wagged once and laid down beside her, as if to say, "This is why I'm here." But in Washington, D.C., Agent Shaw received an alert. Interpol had flagged a third alias tied to Langston linked to a missing child in Prague. The list wasn't limited to the US, the network was international, and it wasn't shut down. Not yet. Sometimes, one voice is enough to stop something terrible. Sometimes, it takes a dog. But far too often, no one hears the ones who've already gone silent. 2 weeks after Miller's arrest, the FBI task force had uncovered more than 50 pages of logs, images, metadata, transaction records from Langston's encrypted drives. Every name, every folder, every rating. They were uncovering a war that had been fought in the shadows, and one folder still haunted Agent Shaw. It was labeled under Pavilion User 76. Inside, there was just one name, one image, Anna Cage, 8 country, Czech Republic status, acquired. Prague, -2021, no missing person report matched that name. No record of parents, no birth certificate in any official database, only a child. Erased from the world except in that folder. She seemed invisible till someone searched the Czech orphanage records and uncovered a forgotten entry in an old archive, just a quiet disappearance, listed as a runaway. No follow-up, no news coverage, nothing more than a brief note in a database. Shaw stared at the photo of Annika, wide eyes, curly hair, a weary face that looked far older than her years. She shut the laptop and turned to her team. This isn't finished. Meanwhile, in Carter County, Blitz lay beneath a sprawling oak in Deanna's backyard, gently chewing on a knotted rope toy. The air was still, except for a breeze and the distant hum of a neighbor's lawnmower. Earlier that day, Lucy and her mum had visited, dropping off a framed drawing, Blitz in a superhero cape, captioned, "He hears what we can't." Deanna had hung it above the fireplace. Her phone buzzed. It was Shaw. "We found a girl," she said. "She vanished years ago, in another country. But Langston's trail goes back that far." Deanna's stomach dropped. "Do you think she's still out there?" she asked. "I don't know," Shaw replied. "But we can't stop now. Blitz gave us time, we need to use it." That week, federal agents made arrests in cities like Portland, Miami, and Atlanta. The suspects were connected through darknet forums, part of the same network. Each operation revealed more names, more images, and reopened cases long considered unsolvable. Blitz, without ever stepping into an interrogation room, had sparked an international investigation spanning 3 continents, all from a single growl. Back home, Lucy returned to school after weeks away. She walked into her 2nd grade classroom, holding her mum's hand and clutching a small, stuffed Blitz made for a department fundraiser. Her classmates applauded. Her teacher gave her a warm hug. In her quiet way, Lucy stood at the front of the room and spoke. "If someone makes you feel strange or scared, even if they smile and say they know you can say no. You can scream. You can run. You can tell an adult. That's not being bad. That's being smart." The room went still. Then, every hand in the class went up. Lucy smiled. In the months that followed, Blitz became a local legend. News crews came from as far as Chicago to cover his story. He appeared in children's books. Police departments around the country began requesting K-29 visits to schools. But Blitz didn't care for attention. He didn't care about cameras or oversized bones. What mattered to him were kids like Lucy, Maya, and Annika, where she might be. 6 months later, in Washington, D.C., a ceremony was held at the Capitol to recognize the Carter County Task Force, local law enforcement, and Blitz. When Deanna took the podium, she didn't speak about awards, arrest numbers, or jurisdiction. She spoke about trust. We trust uniforms, ID cards, handshakes, and smiles. But real trust has to be earned, and sometimes it's a child or a dog who senses when something's wrong, even when no one else says a word. She looked down at Blitz, seated calmly beside her in his polished canine vest. He didn't wait for approval. He didn't fear being wrong. He just really listened to what no one else could hear, and he acted. That's what saved Lucy. That's what sparked this investigation. And that's why Blitz isn't just a retired canine. He's a symbol of the kind of courage that doesn't need a badge. 3 months later, in Prague, a young girl stepped out of a therapy center and into the daylight. Her name was Annika. She had been rescued from a concealed safehouse tied to the Pavilion trafficking network. A local tip, part of the global response inspired by the investigation, led to her discovery. She wasn't smiling yet, but in her hands was a postcard. On it was a photo of a dog. Big ears, soft brown eyes, a graying muzzle. A handwritten message read, "You were never forgotten." Blitz had taught a lesson that reached far beyond a single case. Danger doesn't always shout, it often whispers, it hides in plain sight. That's why listening matters, listening to instincts, to quiet warnings, to the subtle growls that come from deep within. Silence isn't always safety, and courage doesn't always roar. So let's raise children to trust their intuition. Let's notice the moments that feel off. Let's not overlook the small signs. And above all, let's remember heroes don't all look the same. Some of them walk on 4 legs.